Science, Grade 6. Learning competency. Describe the changes on the Earth's surface as a result of earthquakes and volcanic eruption.
So good morning class. Before we proceed to our main lesson, let me ask you a question. So who among here lost their houses because of the ground shaking? Yes, Ayan. Well said, Ayan. So Ayan said that their houses were shattered because of the movement of the ground. So what that is mean? Yes, Lisa. Well done, Lisa, because of earthquake. Now, before we proceed to our main lesson about the earthquake and the volcanic eruption, moreover, let's talk about the layer of the earth. This is related to our main topic, so let's talk and discuss this first. We all know that the layer of the earth is crust, mantle, and core. Do you know this, class? So let me have a chart here. This contains the layers of the earth. So, we have here the crust. Crust is the place where we set food. Here we can build houses, buildings, and homes. Next is the mantle. This is the liquid part of the layer of the earth, where it is made up of molten rocks, while the outer core and the inner core are the one inside. The first is outer core, which is made of liquid, and inner core is made of solid. As what I said, crust is the land where we step on. So the mantle is made of molten rocks, or we called it a magma. When it comes out of outer earth's surface, it's called lava. So outer core here is made up of temperature like 2000 to 200 degrees Celsius, which is made by a liquid, nickel, and iron. The motion of its particles, which are hot and moreover hot or too hot, will have friction, thereby it create or called it magnetic field. So because of the outer core, Earth had magnetic field, while solid, nickel, and iron made up of it in our inner core. The temperature of our inner core is so dense due to the gravity, as we say that the force of gravity tends to its center. It has a temperature of 9,000 to 13,000 degrees Celsius. Naturally speaking, the Earth's surface is undergoing change, and it is brought about of earthquake and volcanic eruption. So let's talk about earthquake first. So class, what do you mean by an earthquake? So earthquake is a form or which is from the word earth. From earthquake means the shaking of the earth that happens in the middle of the crust and the mantle of the region below the crust and the one above the mantle. So they are made up of solid into the crust part, and under it is a liquid. So when there is a friction of its movement from there to these hot elements to the warmer element, because the one is a bit cold down and the one is hot is up. So when there's a convection moves from those hot elements to the hotter elements, because the hot up and the cold down, so it's called convection. In these movements, we have movements here in our tectonic plates. So what do you mean by a tectonic plates, class? So here, tectonic plates are the large plates or the larger plates which are even larger than the continents. To step on the tectonic plates, and when there is a movement on them, let's think that the fossil is like a jigsaw. Do you know what is jigsaw is, class? So very good. When this is a jigsaw or a fossil moves, it will also move the above on it. So here, let's have another chart for another example here. We have here a part of the earthquake. This is the focus where the movement actually originates when, for example, there is a sliding actions here where are actually the most parts of the rocks that give up the stress done by the plates that collide. When it collapses, there will have is snap. At, if when there is a snap, so it means it called a focus here. And here, a slash were shown called fault plane. Here, where it is possible to have an earthquake and the movements like a radiation, like the ripple effect when the focus is called seismic wave. This line. Have you seen this curve? This is seismic wave. And above the earth surface where the focus can be seen above it is called a epicenter. As what I have mentioned, here are the charts that shows the tectonic plates have movements, where these are the 3 plate movements. So here is the divergent, convection, and the transform. Here we have a different plates example which is orange and blue. Let us call this a plate A and plate B. First is divergent. Plate A and plate B is separate from each other, so nagbuwag sila. In their separation, the part that will lose the 2 plates will be a pit, or mostly the place will have 8 tranches. In some case, it can have an infiltration. We call it a magma. So therefore, it can produce a volcano. As in this case, in convection, where a plate A and plate B push each other, and when it happen, one rises or both, they rise, so it can give way or have hills or the rise of the land. As in this case of transform, it is the presence of movement sideways that squeezes the 2 line. It tends are the so-called common earthquakes that we usually feel. So, what are the 4 kinds of earthquake class? So here, ICER class, we have 8 tectonic earthquake, where we have the movements of the plates as I mentioned earlier. Next is volcanic earthquake. So when there's has been a sprout or release of magma from our mantle and become a lava, so it can cause a volcanic earthquake. So here another is explosive earthquake, when, for example, something explodes and it's vibrate with tremor, so it means earthquake movement of the earth, so it is explosive earthquake. Another is collapse earthquake, which is when there is a big object here on the surface of the earth that collapses and falls, so therefore it will have vibration. This is what you call an earthquake. So now before we proceed with our lesson about volcanic eruption, so I have here a sample or a prototype about a volcano which stands in the earth's surface. Just imagine that this is a volcano we usually see in the news or in the place, or it is an active volcano. So before we start, we need to wear face mask nor face shield or other safety cares to avoid unexpected circumstances. So, okay class, I want you to listen carefully. Who wants here to see how volcano erupted? Anyone? Very good. Alright, please settle down. Now, I prepared here, as you can see, the necessary equipment so that I could share with you how a volcano erupted. Here I have prepared some chemicals or ingredients. First, let's put a baking soda inside the volcano. After that, it is a food coloring. And then liquid soap. Then stir it. After that, follow the vinegar. And as you can see, it exploded. Now class, let's discuss why there's a volcanic eruption. So volcanic eruption, moreover, the earthquake is related to each other. So when, for example, there is a plate movement, it tends is to have a earthquake, and beside that, when there is a plate movement, in this case, there are a subduction. What they call that subduction? That one plate went down and meanwhile the other plate remained here. And it tends that the solid will add it to the mantle, so in short, it will add something on it. Another example, it is a cup of a water. When you put an ice into the water, it overflows. So, muawas yun na siya, no? The same happen in the mantle when it is full, and when you added it, it overflows. And when it overflows, it will find a hole, and that's where it will pass, and that's where the volcano is. So, diha mo gawas ang magma nga mahimong lava. As what has happened in the experiment where lava sprout. In that case, this example of magma is elevated so that it comes out of its outlet, because the pressure of is like a balloon, for example. When it have a water and you press or imubusluton where the part it was a hole, it will drips, and here the magma comes out to become a lava. So we have here what does an earthquake due to the earth's surface. So here we can see it after earthquake happened. So the ground shaking or it tilt, ground rupture where it is a landslide downward. Next is tsunami, due to a sudden movement of the earth that the water had a reaction on it. Next is the creation of topography. This means that the surface can be flattened and the surface that we call an earthquake. Next, which is the landform. Due to the presence of the earth shake, it can have a land transformation, like as we can see hills, mountains, trenches, or etc. etc. Next is a fire. This can be happen in a house or in area where someone uses fire. You can build it to a major scale of a fire. So this is what happened as what I have mentioned. We have here ground rupture. So for example, about it can be a solid, but under it is a hollow or empty. And when there is an earthquake, it will give up the ground. So ground shaking is when the emerges of the tendency is that the establishment of man-made buildings can be collapsed, especially if they are made of the weak material. So mahugno jud na siya. So avalanche is not common here happening in the Philippines because we have snow, right? So when we say avalanche, it is when happen to a snow place. So kana yung snow ang place and happens when there is an earthquake. Next is, so we have here a volcanic eruption. It can be a blowing parts of a mountain, creating islands, changing the climate, and destruction of vegetation. So class, this will end our lesson. So please always remember that a volcano looks like a mountain until it's runs and reveals the gigantic forces and extreme temperature inside the earth of the mountains. Of the fire comes from the earth mantle, and the rock here is very hot and very thick. The hot liquid rock, called magma, can moor to the surface. At some places, magma is the noisier than smelted iron. Magma can collect on spaces with a chimney several kilometers long that connect them to the volcanoes. At the surface, with ever more magma coming up from the mantle, pressure is rising suddenly. A heavy plug of stone explode out of the chimney. So, like, chimney is kanang buslot-buslot sa babaw sa vulkan. So, red hot magma shoots out of the crater and turns into lava. When it runs down, the slope of the volcano has emptied. So class, here we end our lesson. I hope you understand well of our discussion today. Thank you so much.